It's almost like, oh, oh, great. Hi, everybody. Hey. How are you all? Where do you want me? You can be right there. Well, great. I'm Castor. I'm your congresswoman. And you know what a thrill it is to represent my hometown in Congress and the University of South Florida? Love it. So thank you for inviting me over.
Oh, we're very happy to have you.
Julia, Jonathan, my current interns, but I'd like to maybe you all, yes, and go around, everyone go around and introduce themselves first, and maybe say where you're from, what you're studying, what year you are.
Andre, so kick it off.
What's going on?
You want to
Say what you're studying, what year you are.
How are you? My name is Andres Montero. I am a senior. I am studying communications and doing a minor in leadership and Spanish. I am in student government. I'm the director of external and government affairs for student government, and thank you for being here.
And did you say where you're from? You had told me earlier, but
Originally from Caracas, Venezuela, but I have been living in Boca Raton, Florida, and in Tampa for the past 7 years.
Hi, I'm Monica. I'm originally from Jacksonville. I'm studying political science and history with a minor in English, and I'm our federal chief of staff, so I read her emails.
Hi, I'm Helen Corba. I'm studying political science, psychology, and English, all of my majors. I'm a graduating senior. I'm from the Fort Lauderdale area, specifically for those who know the area, Davie, Florida. And I am the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Excellent.
Well, thank you for being here. I'm Schroeder. I'm originally from Clearwater, and I go to USF in St. Petersburg. I'm studying business management. I'm a senator right now in student government, and I'm in county campus governor for next year.
I'm Jonathan Chavez. Ms. Castor knows me because I intern at her district office, but I'm a undergrad in political science and economics. I'm a junior now. I also am from Clearwater, like Sean, and I've been in Tampa here since I started USF.
Good afternoon. My name is Cliff McAfee. I represent the Student Veterans in America. I'm a senior studying interdisciplinary social sciences with concentrations in sociology and anthropology. And I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
we'll have to tell you what we did today, but
Outstanding.
Hi, I'm Catherine B. I'm our current ranking justice within the student advocacy court. I'm junior. I'm studying political science and economics with minors in philosophy and human studies, and I'm originally from Lithia, Florida.
Hi, I'm Brianna Benitez. I'm currently a senator here in student government, and I'm studying political science currently. I'm originally from Long Island, New York, but I've lived in Tampa, Florida since middle school age, so really from here mostly. But nice to meet you.
Hi, my name is Yash Badrani. I'm from Belize in Central America. So currently I'm studying biomedical sciences with a minor in public health. I'm a senior, so I'll be graduating. Thank you for being here.
Hi, my name is Claire Gibbs. I currently serve as the Lieutenant Governor here for our local executive branch. I'm originally from New York, but my family's from Canada. I just recently completed an internship, so it's wonderful to see you again.
nice.
And in addition to that, I'm studying biomedical sciences and psychology, so I'm pursuing a comparative degree.
I'm Julie Cunningham. I'm the student body president. I'm also the congressman's intern. I'm studying psychology and political science. I graduate in 18 days now. Not that I'm counting down. What day is graduation? May 7th? And I'm from Miami, Florida.
Hello everyone. Hello. My name is Sukhi Kuloma. I am a third year, so I'm a junior. I am majoring in global business with a concentration in business analytics and information systems, and my minor is international relations. And I'm originally from Peru, but I lived here for about 11 years, so kind of the same thing, just been kind of raised here as well.
Okay, let's go around and
Hi, I'm Renuka Prasad. I'm the Media Science Specialist for the Federal Media Science from Samantha.
Hey everyone, my name is Paulium. I'm a junior majoring in computer science, and I serve as the Chief Deputy Financial Officer for Tampa Student Government.
And who will also be the next student body president.
Well, I'm a therapist already. Well, why don't you need to sit at the table here?
I was the last minute invitee.
There's a seat here,
You can sit right here.
yeah.
I'll take a seat here.
Sir?
Good afternoon, Congressman Castor. Appreciate you coming here and visiting us at USF. My name is Amon Bradford. I'm a student veteran. I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years. Now I'm here as a bull and studying journalism.
Oh, so I know,
Wait here, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Here.
What are the less important ones? I'm Ian Carroll. I'm an advisor to student government.
And I'm Gary Manka, I'm the Director of the Advising Office here.
I'm Congresswoman Lauren Hartman, Director of State Government Relations. And I'm a student too, my second master's degree.
Excellent,
I can't get
good.
Hey everyone, Mark Walsh, I'm Government Relations at the University. Welcome, Congressman. Always wondered how to hear your great advocates for our university. We appreciate everything you do.
And I'm Marcia Mania, I'm the Congresswoman's District Director.
So thank you for doing that.
cool, so I know here, like I said, we have some questions prepared for you. It's all about kind of career development, to pick your brain about government. As you saw, 90% of us in here are political science majors, are interested in a similar career path as you. So we just wanted to pick your brain and then share that information with students. And I know Kiara wanted to start us off with the first question.
Okay, so our first question is, what advice do you have for future leaders that want to pursue public service?
Just get out there now. And first of all, I'm grateful to all of you for being student leaders. You were probably leaders in your high school, and your peers look up to you, but you're the ones in making decisions. I know you have a very healthy budget, and with that comes significant responsibility. So thank you for what you do. When I was also in student government in college, and I was a poli-sci major, even though I kind of like my history classes better. I knew my path early. I knew that I wanted to attend law school, so that was helpful. I knew that I wanted to work in public service as well. I never, ever in my wildest dreams thought that I would be able to represent my hometown in Congress. I was an intern as well my junior year in college for the one of Florida's United States Senators. Have you ever heard of Lawton Chiles? Yes? He was a longtime U.S. Senator, and then he returned home to serve as governor of Florida. He was from the Lakeland area, and one of his claims to fame and one of the reasons he was very popular, he walked the entire state of Florida and had the moniker of Walkin' Lawton Chiles. But I had role models when I was young because my mother started as a teacher and got involved in League of Women Voters and Save Our Bay, environmental issues, and then was kind of one of the trailblazing female elected officials in the state, starting here at the local level, in the county commission and the state senate, then as education commissioner, and then USF president. She never really envisioned that for her, but back then the opportunities for women when she decided to go into teaching was a little more limited. My father was from Tampa, and he was an attorney, and he started legal aid here in the Tampa area. They called Bay Area Legal Services that provides legal representation to people who cannot afford a lawyer. And then he was appointed to the county court bench and did all of the landlord-tenant cases, small claims, and would take me to his courtroom with him, including to what they call first appearances. He'd take me on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning, and all of the people who had been arrested the night before would come before him and make a plea. And that was very eye-opening to a middle school student about drug dealers, prostitution, but a lot of drunk driving, motorcycle accidents. So their thing was always get the best education you can, and public service is part of who you are. And you all have already kind of set that standard. But internships, of course, volunteering, the areas that you care about, whether that's veterans issues, supporting our vets and service members, or environmental and climate change. You just have to be outgoing, network, use every tool at your disposal. Don't be afraid to ask. You all have learned these skills already, I can tell. And you need to kind of ultimately develop an area of expertise and a good network where you can demonstrate your leadership and kind of build upon it.
And Sean, I think you have a question.
Well, thank you. You sort of touched on a little bit of different opportunities that may exist now to get involved, but if you wouldn't mind sharing, what are some experiences that you have had previously that compelled you to engage in career in public service?
Well, you know, my first job out of law school, I graduated from Florida State College of Law in Tallahassee, and I went to work for the state of Florida. And I've always loved, growing up here in Tampa, I've just always loved being out at the beach, I taught horseback riding at summer camp for many summers. I love being outdoors. So my first job out of law school was working for the state of Florida, enforcing environmental and growth management laws. And that took me to the Florida Keys, to the Green Swamp, other areas in Florida. I've always, you all probably share this even though you're much younger than me. There are very special places that we have to protect. What makes Florida special are the beaches and a clean and healthy Tampa Bay, and just some of the overdevelopment, I think it hurts our health. It's not attractive. There are better ways to do it. So I loved my first job working for the state of Florida, getting out and about. And I had one great trial early on in my career in the Florida Keys. That's under state law, is an area of critical state concern because the resources are so fragile. And have you ever seen pictures of the Florida key deer? You know what so one of the smallest deers on the planet lives in the Florida Keys. It's an endangered species. So you're not allowed to build fences in certain areas in the Keys because that disrupts their habitat and mating patterns and everything. So this guy it's kind of ironic, he decided he would be a fence contractor on Big Pine Key, right in the heart of key deer habitat where there are no fences allowed. And his company was called Your Local Fence. And he was kind of mafioso anyway. But I remember very well as a young lawyer going down in this big trial and having to take that on and fight for endangered species. And that's a good example of Florida, the constant struggle between growth and development and keeping Florida special and protecting species and habitats. So that was my favorite first job, except I worked there, my starting salary was $19,000. And I remember I asked for a raise to $20,000 or $21,000, and they said no, we couldn't do that. So I had met my future husband in law school, and he said, well, why don't we go somewhere? And I said, well, I'll go back home to Tampa, but I love that job, and I encourage you all to find that pathway. I know you're interested in public service. Just do it at the right time in your life where you're gaining that experience.
So I wanted to ask for your perspective perspective on how young people can navigate the current political culture wars. That's kind of the
Man,
current
it's
we're
just,
going in.
it's unbelievable right now,
And,
isn't it?
especially in your work, how can we best advocate for our beliefs while still pushing for the cooperation between, I guess, not even just parties, it's kind of gone beyond that in a lot of ways.
I know, it's just so inflamed right now, and it's very difficult, isn't it, with this diverse media polarization and social media. And just talking to people one-on-one, face-to-face, especially now that we're bouncing back from COVID-19, and just those personal relationships, finding that common ground early and building those bridges and not demonizing someone off the bat, but it's, I do a little bit of work as well on children's online privacy protection for social media. What we've learned from research is that the big tech companies trying to get kids hooked early. They had proposed recently Instagram for kids, and kind of like the tobacco companies, they want to get kids hooked early on that, even though they're already pretty hooked on devices. But I've learned through listening to experts how much those inflammatory comments fuel engagement and response. Are there any psychology majors or minors in here? So tell me about this. This is, I want to hear what you all think would help, because people are just so wedded to their phones right now. I'm worried about what that means. With all the great connections that it's given us and the ways to communicate and learn and get coupons and discounts and concert tickets, it's a problem. It's a problem, the polarization, but I think it's really building bridges personally and trying to get out of that. But what do you know about this that could be helpful from a psychology perspective? Helen?
I don't know what would be helpful, but something that I do find fascinating about psychology is the role that psychology does play in trying to get our youth to be attracted and attached to social media a lot. Something that I've seen documentaries and also learning from some of my classes, that they will actually hire a team of psychologists to try to bait more people to be attached to the platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, it's like, as much as we do need psychology to help us set those healthy boundaries, it's also incredible how it's also being wielded as a weapon to get more people to get attracted to these accounts. But in terms of trying to mitigate the youth from, getting sucked into social media, that's something that I'm still trying to figure out, because social media, and I guess the internet at large, has been such, a powerful tool, yet such a powerful weapon all at once.
I think that a lot of young people, young children right now, definitely use social media and just media in general to kind of set a standard and take advantage of the experiences that they can actually get themselves. So I think a lot of times, how self-esteem plays a huge role when it comes to social media and young women. I think that when it comes to children in general, they're just trying to get an idea of what the world has to offer. So that's why they are so involved.
Yeah, a lot of the research now shows that since the advent, not of the phone and the device, but their ability to interact, especially on Instagram, there are much higher rates of anxiety among young people, higher suicide rates. Have you seen this in your peers? Because you all have grown up. Like I have two daughters. One is 25, one is 22, and my older daughter, she wasn't at that age, not as it just wasn't as prevalent. But my younger daughter kind of came on as everybody had the device, and they were pressuring their parents. Oh, everybody has the phone. I have to have it, and much more comparing each other online, even watching the bullying that goes on. But what did you all experience as you've grown up with that? It's ubiquitous for you all.
Fraudulent. People trying to hack your account. Hacking is a big issue. Cybersecurity needs to be improved on those social media sites. Our data is at risk. I think those algorithms don't help either.
Yeah, that's a big, you know, you see Elon Musk he's been fooling around with Twitter, and it's a big, he says free speech, but is it when those platforms control the algorithms and push certain information out at you, that's not just plain free speech, is it?
I think it's really difficult because you always look to government to find solutions, but I feel like this is one of those places where legislation could very easily cause the problem to make it worse rather than better, because instead of like protecting students, it could be easily twisted into suppression. So it's like, how, as a giant entity that is the US government, do you pursue this? You have to start looking at private corporations, and then it's that line of like, well, why are we giving private corporations the ability to dictate what is free speech and what isn't, when, well, we elect everyone else to do that? And it's like, it's hard to like navigate it and think like, is there a true solution to this? Or are we, as like a social people group, gonna have to evolve in a way to navigate these things? Because now it's like, you meet people like my grandparents, she cannot comprehend texting, you know? And it's like, how are we having people of her generation leading these discussions who
And this is what
cannot
happened
understand
in Congress just a couple years ago. We had Mark Zuckerberg and some of the other tech CEOs there. You may have seen this, where they're like, so what is Facebook? How do you make your money?
I just
It's
simply,
like, well, we sell ads.
I just simply remember seeing, I think it was one senator trying to ask what a Finsta account was and thinking that that was Instagram. And he was like, well, I want to ban the Finsta. And Mark was like, I don't know what to tell you in this situation right now. So it's just interesting hearing from your perspective too, because it seems like one of those solutions that the government almost can't fix, but it needs government help to be
But
fixed.
there's so much we can do. And I have to admit, I'm not a total tech expert, but as a mom in Congress that has watched what has happened and being able to read what all the research says now about higher rates of anxiety and suicide and all that, there are some things that we can do, especially for kids. So I have a bill that's the leading bill on children's online privacy. I always explain it like this to adults. I said, okay, so if there is a stranger sitting outside of your kid's bedroom, what would you do? You would call the police. They would not be allowed to do that. But online, right now, those tech companies are gathering their data. They're following them. They are building a profile on them to be able to target them. There are some really scary examples out there on, they're searching for certain diet pills, and they're then targeted with really horrendous information on all sorts of bad supplements or eating disorder misinformation. So there are some things we can do in the UK, and the EU are well ahead of us with a design code, just as simple as you're not allowed to target ads to kids up to a certain age. And that's something simple that we can do. So there are some government solutions, but you do have to be careful not to legislate something that's going to be out of date. Good thing that happens.
Awesome. Gotcha.
So my question would be, as student leaders, what are some steps that we can take towards better community development and more engagement?
So that's a great question. This area is rich in selfless people who are building up neighborhoods, helping their neighbors, churches, mosques. We're rich in that, and I have high expectations for you all as student leaders that you are going to help with that you're going to help build bridges. And it kind of goes back to people. It's so easy these days to get siloed and just be among people that you're comfortable with all the time. but as leaders, it's very important to go out and seek others. So when you say community development, are you talking about anything in particular, like certain neighborhoods or certain causes? Or?
Nothing like particularly, but like just like how we can help our communities become like a more positive environment, safe environment, and for growth, positive growth.
So what's your favorite thing about Tampa and the Tampa Bay area?
I love the Riverwalk. I love the just being downtown and like just having like that fresh air, fresh breeze. Just like how the Riverwalk has developed like a safe way for all of us to like get our exercise on that. As a community, we come together. So that's something that I do enjoy. So asking like what else.
I love the Riverwalk too, and I've worked for many years on federal grants to help extend it, and we just won another big federal investment. So they're at Blake High School on the west side. Now we are going to build the Riverwalk on the west side all the way up into West Tampa, and it's very important because those neighborhoods are kind of locked in. They don't have a lot of bike paths, sidewalks, safe places, and we really think that that's going to provide a way for people to get to good jobs in the area and just open it up to a whole other segment of the community that hasn't had a lot of investment there now. So I'm glad you mentioned the Riverwalk. But it is amazing to go down there on a nice afternoon and see. I'm like, ooh, what are these people out enjoying it? Get run over by a scooter. I mean, it is fantastic. So what's Tampa missing? What's the Tampa area missing? So you like that Riverwalk, those connections. So what don't you like?
I guess like I'm more thinking about this area and general like how Fletcher Valley area is an area that a lot of people wouldn't consider walking. Sometimes they wouldn't consider it safe.
You could die. It's true.
So it's like, how can we just better our USF area, like specifically in this area? How can we contribute to making it a more accessible and more safer environment?
The other thing, the big missing piece is transit, right? We're like the largest metropolitan area in the country without a functional transit system, and the buses and light rail. And you all have traveled other places, right? What city have you been to where they have a good transit system?
I know.
New York?
I know in Pittsburgh we have Port Authority up there, and it's pretty suffice. And we have the rail system there that we're building here, so correct, we're building in Tampa. But really we have like the trolley system there, and then public buses. We have some. I mean, I live in Pasco in Wesley Chapel, right up the road, and there's like one bus that runs every 4 hours, and it's hard for people because it goes all the way down to the airport and then all the way back out to 54. That's really not suffice for
No, you can't
people.
plan your life, you can't get to school on time or get to work, so that's kind of the missing link. And in fact, the University of South Florida College of Business a couple of years ago did a study on what a functional transit system, like rail, buses, and like would mean for the area. And the bottom line was we would lift hundreds of thousands of people out of poverty because they would be connected to work and school, and it would create economic activity. And now I see it as the linchpin to making housing more affordable. There's a rail line that runs from downtown by Amalie Arena, north into Ybor, right by Busch Gardens, up here, and it goes north. That is the place everyone's looking to start. And in Congress, we just passed a historic infrastructure bill. And if what you have to do to unlock the billions of dollars to get those things going, you have to have a local match. So in November, back on the Hillsborough County ballot will be the offer transportation referendum to help with that local match for transit. And it will go to roads, sidewalks, bike paths. But a lot of times to bring down those big community development dollars, you have to have the local commitment. And it's kind of been missing here on transit for many, many years.
Catherine?
Yeah, I'm gonna skip to my other question.
Yeah, go for it.
So obviously a lot of elections are coming up this fall, and I was just wondering, how do you get people to care enough to vote a certain way, whether they be swing voters or maybe somebody who you want to just see your perspective, and what do you tend to focus on a lot of?
Well, I do a lot of listening in my job, and I haven't done any like real polls for 15 years or so, because first I don't know that you can really, that people answer the phone. And I know that there are scientific ways to it, but just listening to our neighbors and trying to be responsive. When you're an intern in the office, what is the most basic thing that you all do?
Answer the phone.
Answer the phone, right? And people, are they shy in sharing their opinions?
No, they're not.
And they're not shy in sharing their opinions in Publix or out and about, and that's your job. And you all have learned that as student leaders too, that they, again, with your position comes the responsibility to listen to people. And but then you fine tune all that when you get to campaigns. So in an active, full-blown campaign, you want to communicate to people in a number of different ways. There's in the campaign world, you're usually taught early that you have to communicate with a voter maybe 3 times about what they care about to kind of win them over. So that means in a full-blown campaign, as opposed to just being the congresswoman every day, you are advertising, you're in their mailbox. Now we have to do more digital, because again, people are on their phone all the time. Walking door to door is a good way, but for a member of Congress now, we represent about 800,000 residents now that we have new districts, so you can't walk to everybody's door that way. And then you think about radio, you think about TV. Now, what's most effective for you all? I'm curious. So, Kevin, what's most effective for you if I mean, there'll be local candidates, judges, state reps, governor, USF. I mean, this is going to be a very active year. You probably already have opinions about some candidates, but maybe lower down on the ballot, you don't know. What's effective in kind of getting your attention during campaign season?
It's funny you ask that. I actually do canvassing for a representative, and I think door to door always does get people to pay attention more because it makes them feel more personally touched and connected to the candidate. I actually enjoy seeing them in the news, which is a little bit more detached, but I'd rather see the actions that they're actually doing instead of the message that they're trying to sell me, because obviously actions speak louder than words. In terms of that though, I think probably social media advertising is the most likely that you guys know because I don't read news. Well, I don't read the newspaper, I don't.
We used to have 2 really strong newspapers in town, the Tampa Tribune and the Tampa Bay Times. That's another, they're casualties of online advertising. So in the news, but you don't watch the 6 o'clock news, do you? Local news?
No, everything's digital. I have it on my phone. I go to Reuters and I read through the headlines.
Do any of you follow the Tampa Bay Times? Okay, all right. Where else? What are your news sources? I'm curious.
Mine is Twitter.
Twitter? Yeah.
Bulls Connect.
What is it?
Bulls Connect.
Bulls, yeah.
Bulls Connect is I don't know how to explain
It's
it.
our online platform for student organizations to share their events, what they have going on, what's happening at the university.
I think that moderating sources do have to be a little used to have on Apple. But I also really like seeing people campaign on social media as well, especially when it's like interactive and I'm able to see them and they're every single day being in that role, that person that they are trying to show the entire time, whether it's a student body, whether it's your constituents. Just seeing them actively be that congresswoman, that congressperson, and just advocate for what they're doing every single day. So, I think that's
So I need to, I know that I need to up my game on my, my videos, like my, yeah, I mean, it's just, that's the way folks communicate these days, and, I've probably been, even with my, what I'm doing on my online legislation, I probably need to be able to speak to the camera or to the phone a little more often, and, in fact, we are looking to hire a digital person in, on the official side, and then a digital person on the campaign side. So if you know of anyone that has extraordinary skills, communication skills
I
there.
happen to know a very good person.
Yes, works on my staff.
But
But that's a sign of the times, isn't it? Yeah, so it's, that's, I know that that's how y'all are getting news, a lot of people are. So I need to, do I need to go on TikTok too? What do you think? Yes?
I think so.
You don't think so? Not me, but just somebody that can help me with it.
I would say, for the Florida State Representative that I am interning with right now, she has been dabbling with TikTok a little bit, and especially for Gen Z, it has been receptive. So I know that especially we've had the conversation about social media, but I do think that at least for our generation and kind of millennials, they are attracted to social media, and that's how, you know, we receive a lot of our information.
Definitely Instagram.
I want to second her on TikTok.
TikTok, yeah.
Because I distinctly remember for the 2020 election, in Georgia, Senator Ossoff, I'm bad with last names, but he was really big on TikTok. And the issue with like people our age is we don't tend to vote, but when we did vote, a lot of people in Georgia were like, oh, well, he's cool and funny. It like kind of stops being about the policy, but more so about the personality. And like, oh, I like his TikTok, so yeah, I'll go vote for him, you know? And it's like appealing to that side, because a lot of people our age genuinely don't understand policy at like a much larger scale. And that's not their fault, but being able to show that you're just a personable person is like enough to get our age to vote.
What do you think?
I think TikTok is good for the younger crowd, as you know, a lot of it say, because, I mean, I speak for myself. I don't personally have a TikTok, and I have an older sister. She's about 7 to 8 years older than me, and she doesn't have a TikTok either. And as the age group goes up and higher, you see that, you know, people don't really have TikTok, and they're more focused on Facebook or Instagram. Obviously, Instagram is the big giant.
Insta's the one.
Yeah.
Now TikTok, you know, it is owned by the Chinese government,
Mm-hmm.
and they were also dinged for gathering illegal there. There's that. But I wonder, you just wonder what social media platform is coming next, right?
Yeah, I was actually just thinking about that. I think that every single day is something different. So as long as you're a leader who's willing to stay adaptable, I think that says a lot in itself. And that way you're just kind of transitioning with the times that everyone else is keeping up with the people in the way they take it. So,
Just don't stop the old school stuff.
Just don't stop
Don't stop the TV ads or anything.
Yeah.
Because I get most of my world news from CNN, and then I compare it from like Fox News, all the local news channels and national channels. I just compare everything and form my own opinion about it.
Good.
Actually,
Well, it hasn't President Zelensky been a master at communication? And
Yes.
God bless those brave people in Ukraine, but he, you know, and the American government, we've helped them with that style of communication, but he's a natural, isn't he? He really understands the power of those videos and.
He does. I agree. I just hopefully we can do a lot for Ukrainian students that are here on USF as well.
How many Ukrainian students?
I talked to them, they said there's 35 that I'm aware of. And they said at the end of this semester, they pretty much don't know where to go. Because their visas they can't get jobs out in there to pay their bills and to pay their rent. So I think that's a big deal.
Well, the Biden administration recently announced that anyone here can stay and that we will be taking in refugees. So all of my interns here, we know how to get in. You do have to make some application, and this is a community that I've already seen the nonprofits, the churches, just regular people who are ready to help them. And we're going to do that. And at the same time, you can be very proud the United States of America is providing enormous amounts of humanitarian aid to those countries in Eastern Europe, like especially Poland and Hungary and everywhere that are housing refugees. And then the military equipment, every week now there is a new amount. And the question will be this new fight in the eastern part of Ukraine that's flatter, getting the right defensive and offensive weapon systems and everything else, all the technology. But it's going to be very difficult. I never thought we'd see something like World War II again, but Putin is a megalomaniac, and I'm not sure how it's going to end yet. Yeah,
Thank you. Monica, you have another question?
Yeah, so I'm curious to hear about how work in Washington has changed following the January 6th attack.
Oh,
If it
God.
has changed, if it has,
Yeah.
do you think it will ever return to what it used to be like, or if that was an event that like kind of it's a before and after permanently altered?
Yeah, talk about something that was you never ever thought you would live through. You all are students of history, and you know about the War of 1812 and the Civil War. I mean, even in the Civil War, there was not an attack on our very own capital. It's so disheartening that our own citizens were ginned up and believed that was the answer, fueled by misinformation and lies. And it has been a bizarre time because it happened in the middle of a pandemic where it's already, when you go to Congress, it's weird. It's not even like the state House and Senate in Florida and Tallahassee where people kind of mix together. You're elected to Congress and you're kind of divided into the Democratic caucus and the House Republican conference. Right off the bat, early on you go through an orientation and you mix and mingle, but they weren't even doing that. So that's where you kind of going back to build the personal connections, common ground, even though you're coming from different parties and different viewpoints. It's so important to have that basic human-to-human perspective. Meet the spouses, meet the kids, humanize people. But that had not happened because of the pandemic. And then after the insurrection, total breakdown of trust. And I think if my Republican friends had come back and not continued to object to the results of the election, things would be a little bit different. But there are folks in the Congress now, and the evidence is coming out, that helped organize and plan this, and that's a bridge too far then to try to find an area to cooperate on a piece of legislation. It's very difficult, and we have metal detectors going out into the House floor now. so it's just taken a lot. It's been very painful to try to build those personal friendships. It's just, the atmosphere was poisoned, and the folks, the brave people who kind of crossed over have been shunned on the Republican side. Look at Liz Cheney. We don't agree on much. We're the same age though, and our daughters have mutual friends, and so we built a rapport, but we don't see eye to eye. But boy, what a patriot, constitutional patriot she is to stand up for the Constitution. But she's been totally shunned. She was removed from leadership, and it's just, it's very, you're always going to have partisan fights and differences on issues, but the bedrock of our democracy, they tried to take down, just like another dictator in another country, and it's a painful episode. Do you have any advice for me on that?
Our student government is not as intense as.
Yeah, you guys don't go there. You could, yeah. Judge, but you've lived through this remarkable piece in history, but just no one ever understood that democracy in America was so fragile. So that really, I hope that instills in you a greater sense of responsibility to our country and to building those relationships and calling out lies, and don't let us go down the road of autocrats, and don't be afraid to tell people, I did disagree, and here, let me help educate you on some things and stand up for what's right.
Congresswoman, you said something about what we possibly could do. I think where the root is a lot of politics revolve around hot button issues rather than more important ones. And I think those are meant to create division. And I think it's important to try to avoid those things. I'd hate to bring up our own governor, Ron DeSantis, but there's been some things that, in my opinion, I felt to be a little bit more controversial focuses, specifically with the kid, I don't want to say it, but don't say, there was that, and then there's also the textbooks that he doesn't want to approve because of certain things.
And we don't even know.
So.
Yeah, I don't understand it either, and other than he obviously wants to be president of the United States, and he understands that it's kind of, he's his own social media machine that inflames the passions and it keeps you engaged and all that, but wow, what a dereliction of duty to what really matters to people in this state, and just creating that divisive atmosphere constantly is exhausting, and it's a disservice to the state and the people who live here. But that was particularly mean-spirited, because there is not in our public schools right now, especially you all tell me, in elementary school, you were in school with all sorts of different people, races, religions, backgrounds, and the teachers, almost to a person, there are exceptions, are there to support students. And there is not an indoctrination going on. You have to work to protect every child and respect every family. And the fact that what this was, it was a major distraction to their failure to support students. Florida is the third largest state in the country, and yet we rank 46th in per pupil support. And that has happened over years and years and years. So they're the ones failing students. We should have a top-tier education system in the state of Florida and not divert attention away from the fact that we've got to provide students with more resources and pay teachers better, and that's what that's all about. And I hope, you think people, younger people always give me the hope. What are you hearing from your friends and other students? Do they kind of see that, or are they kind of kind of succumbing to that debate. I think that's the most important issue out there.
I think some people have definitely been the juice a little bit.
Not the Jews, that's okay.
But I think for the most part, in my conversations, everyone has been very reasonable and understanding, and I haven't seen that level of like hatred that is being brought up at some of our top levels in government, like in Ron DeSantis. But I think for the most part, like everyday Americans and students our age are very reasonable and very open-minded as well. And I don't know if that's just because of our age group being in college, but that's been my experience.
What do you all?
As a parent, financially knows. However, as a parent of 3 daughters, one is a junior right now at Wiregrass Ranch. Did we sit down, we have these discussions.
I bet.
And their issue is, they're biracial, so they're saying, Dad, how come it's not important for me to learn critical race theory? And, well, we have to learn about old, I hate to say excuse me, but old dead white men. And well, we can't learn about history. History. And I told them, I said, I honestly think it's the Republicans saying that they're retribution for the statue being taken down. The history, we can't teach history. That museums are for, and as a social science major, we live on it. What are we going to do? Cut out all the stigma, race, and justice classes from USF? And I think it's crazy that our governor wants to let students sue because they had their feelings. There's been people, I'm 3rd generation Italian, Irish, American, and guess what? We have it just not on the same level as African Americans have it in this country. However, I believe that our men and women in authority have to remember the Constitution, the oath to the Constitution that we took as federal employees. It doesn't run out, it doesn't have the expiration date, and we can't pick and choose, no matter if you're on the right, left, what constitutes, we can't pick and choose which amendments of that Constitution to make fit our own agenda. And I think that's what a lot of leaders do, to try to make it, to twist it and pick out the words, kind of like the story of the Bible. People pick and choose, and it turns people off. And honestly, me being a veteran, it has really turned me off that we're really debating about this in 2022 right now, that they don't have everybody behind our generation to come has to still deal with this. It's time that we grow up and be united as a United States.
That's well said.
So I had a very different education track to get here. I went to a micro private religious school. So a lot of this policy was things that I grew up, it was normal. My school didn't teach critical race theory. In fact, they didn't really teach slavery. They didn't teach anything like that. My school was very openly homophobic and a bunch of those things. So I can see it in my classmates, and I think it's a legitimate reason as to why many people I went to school with dropped out of school, couldn't get into state schools, because there is that lack of critical thinking they develop, and you have to do that to get into college. And to get here to USF, it was a struggle, because you come into school and everything you're taught, I went K through 12, the first semester of college, they're like, that's not how that happened. So it adds a wall to students, because they're putting these, restrictions from K through 12, but then you come to college and it's kind of what it used to be. So you have to force yourself to reteach yourself a lot of things, and it's just complicating an education system that didn't need to be complicated, and then it does negatively impact students. And I see it, there's a reason why I don't talk to a lot of people I went to high school with, because it's like, whoa, why do you think like that? You have developed nothing from the 12 years you spent in school. You can't do anything. You don't know how to think. You don't know how to act. And it's sad, and it's sad to see that this is something that could start being implemented in public schools, because my school had 200 kids, so think of that at a statewide level. You know, out of my school, out of my class, only 2 of us made it to state schools. And what does that say about an education system when you're breeding people who cannot think and struggle every day?
Yeah, you want all kids to have a good bedrock early education. But in America, we also, you have the right to educate your kids, whether it's homeschooling or religious schools or, any parochial schools. And what's interesting, it's so hypocritical on the don't say gay, kind of this issue they made up. If they were so concerned about it, why did they exempt all for-profit charter schools from the same law? They thought it was all important. Did you all know they had done that? They kind of they said charter school, don't worry about it. But the parents do have a right to educate their kids in this country, but that's a very interesting perspective and there are, there's some great private schools and religious schools, but and the same probably goes for certain public schools too, that don't do a bang-up job on education. But I think that takes us back to and in the Florida Constitution years ago, the voters put in there that the primary purpose of state government is to support public education, a system of free and equal public schools. And I wish the debate was over how much more we can pay teachers and invest in our students and give them the supplies and tools they need to be healthy and well grown. That's the real debate in this state. That's in mind.
Awesome, so I think, I'm looking at this here.
Is she giving the signal?
I got it. So I want to thank you so much for talking to us. If you don't mind, I'm going to provide everyone with the district's contact information. I know some people have questions, they can call and talk to some of the interns, and we can pass along that. But thank you so much for coming. We're going to pass
But
on.
one last thing, because I said, I wanted to explain what we did this morning and just compliment you and USF. This really is one of the premier universities in the country for veterans. And we really value you. And one of my proudest moments was voting for the GI Bill for the 21st century for our returning Iraq and Afghanistan veterans. But today, right across the street, we have one of the best VA medical centers and clinics in the entire country. Today, out Bush Boulevard towards Temple Terrace, we broke ground on what is going to be the state-of-the-art mental health wellness clinic for veterans in this area. And it will provide resources all across the spectrum for veterans and families. So this is going to be an important resource for USF vets, and then all of the partnerships with USF Health that helps train the mental health workforce we need for veterans and everyone.
Congresswoman, Congresswoman, I have one quick question, and I think this is something that concerns the whole Tampa Bay community, the housing crisis. Is there anything that that you can do to keep people from constantly raising their rates, basically price gouging? Because I have a friend, she's actually a Marine herself, single mother, and she's going on day-to-day, month-to-month, lease. However, they're saying, okay, you're gonna have to pay $200 next month. They're basically trying to force her out because they feel like there's other people who can afford it easier.
I know, it is so hard. For all the investments we've made to make Tampa, this whole Tampa Bay area special, we are discovered, and coming out of the pandemic, people are moving here left and right, and what I've tried to do is make sure that we're fighting for every housing grant dollars, so on, you know, a lot of the apartment complexes that you'll see have affordable components. There's a long waiting list though. And then in the American Rescue Plan, you know, in addition to raising the Pell Grant, by the way, and putting a pause on student loans, that'll come in handy for a lot of families, the child tax credit and the historic child care tax credit. People filed their taxes mostly yesterday. You all are probably still paying. But that's a godsend for a lot of families, and it may not directly help pay the rent, but that put money in their pockets when they need it. But I know it's not enough, and we have to keep it.
Is there a possibility for any government regulation on these rising rent prices?
The Tampa City Council, the Board of County Commissioners, they decided not to do rent control, but we just have to get more resources. Transit will be an answer as well, because then you can build denser apartments and condos around transit stops. That doesn't help pay the rent today, though.
Thank you.
Do you guys want to get 50 for take a picture?
Yeah.
Awesome. Love it. I love it. I will.
Yeah. You want to do it in the background?
Yes.
And then that as well, it's from Helen, the judicial branch.
I have a lot of. No worries.
I'm gonna use flash, I'm so sorry.
And I'll use your flash.
Okay. That turned out pretty good.
And go both?
Go Bulls.
Yes.
I was gonna ask, but I didn't want to do that. Perfect, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks so much for
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So did anybody live in Castor Hall?
I did.
You told me they cleaned it up a little. Right.
Oh, it was nice. It was nice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, great question. Thank you.